Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the Crubcast. I am your host, Chris Meekiness Fan. With me today, for our video version, I just have to address this immediately. Brody!
Hello.
What's up, Brody? Been a while.
Yeah, it has. It has been a while. Is there something that you'd like to speak to me about?
Oh,
I wouldn't like to speak to you about it.
You just have floating ghost Knuckles the Echidna going through your background.
Yeah, he died, and he was mixed up and crushed into this can that I'm drinking from. Which I just need to say, I don't know what it is about Knuckles brand Sour Power G Fuel, but I cannot for the life of me clear my throat.
What is that QR code for?
No, that's only for people watching.
Trav put up a QR code. If you want to scan it, come to the YouTube.
Come check the video version and hold your phone up and see what that's about, I guess. Trav, how are you doing?
This is the worst intro to a podcast ever.
Wait, did someone actually scan it?
No!
Oh, okay, that's why I thought you were laughing.
It's been 20 seconds.
Hey, how's it going? I hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah, no, we're great.
Welcome to Crubcast featuring myself and Brody.
Yeah.
We also have Justin, who I'm increasingly feeling a kinship with.
How's it go?
What is happening? Do we restart this realm? Hi, Justin. How have you been?
I've been doing great. I've been a lot less busy recently, so I've been able to hang out with you guys a lot more, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, and I've noticed I've been a little more sad as that's happened lately. I'm not sure if there's a correlation or what. But
we went from a kinship to being, oh man, he's around more. I'm upset about that.
You never know where things are going to go on the Crubcast.
Yeah, it's part of our dynamic. You know, we got to keep people coming back week to week.
I know where things will go.
Oh, wait. You've seen the final plot? What is it?
No, I can just see the future.
Okay, how do...
You know,
right.
my friend said if you drink the juice inside of the magic 8-ball, you could see the future. He did it,
right.
Drank it, said, I'm going to die, and then he did. So
what you're saying is I need to bust out my 20-year-old magic 8-ball and have a little sip.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like by then it will
As
have
a
fermented, you know, into like a fine wine.
So do you think like the triangle inside that like spins around when you shake up the magic 8-ball, would that be like a pickle?
Yeah, and then I have it, and it's actually doused in crab, so I die.
Oh.
Wait,
No,
because of the
That's
crab?
a throwback to anyone who heard that story. I don't remember what episode we talked about.
Remember
that
the
in.
time I almost killed that Trav guy with the pickle?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh.
Chris almost killed me, but it was voluntary, so I maybe not. Like I said kill me, and then he almost did, so it worked out.
It was one of those moments where I really should have thought through what I was doing, but you were just like, hey man, can I have that pickle?
Dude,
I
didn't think about it. I'm the one who's allergic, and I'm like, I want the pickle.
And I was just like, yeah, it's just a pickle. Trav could eat a pickle. Here, have it.
Yeah.
Turns out there was crab on the plate with the pickle.
All right, Brody, finish your introduction because I still have to give mine.
Well, I don't even.
Not already introduced ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know what my introduction is. I guess I could say I almost killed a guy that was allergic to peanut butter, but almost deliberately. I said to him, I was like, you know, yo, hey Brian, do you want a peanut butter ball? Knowing that he was allergic to peanut butter, but I said the word peanut butter, like obviously it was a joke, and he just goes, yeah, sure, and he goes to reach for it, and I have to like kick in my reflexes to take it away, because I'm like, no, they're not supposed to die here.
We got a confession,
Justin,
boys. Grab him, bag him, and grab him.
Justin, who have you almost killed, Justin?
So
this is the actual topic of the pod.
I mean,
physical damage. I threw a bottle of water at one of my friends in college, and he still has a scar on his face from where I smacked him in the face with a bottle of water.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
I wasn't expecting you, of all people, to have something approximating an actual honest answer for that.
Yeah. He was bleeding a lot more profusely than I thought he would. And then
You thought he would.
What kind of water? This ain't no.
Yeah, he was
This
talking
doesn't
for
have
little
to-
blood.
so
This doesn't have to be a Dasani. What the hell?
so
You
yeah,
had a
I threw a
reasonable
bottle
expectation of how much he would bleed, and it exceeded that expectation.
because
Okay.
so I expected none. And then the fact that there was blood exceeded my expectation.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
really hoping it was like a Quentin Tarantino
Was it like a
amount of
metal
blood.
bottle?
No, it was plastic. That's why I was so
the
surprised
fuck?
that it cut him open.
Did you hit him with the cap?
I must have hit him with like, you know how the cap has like a plastic bit on the bottom with the ring around it to keep it like
Bro, no
sealed?
cap.
I think that part, that's like the hardest part of the plastic. That's the part that hit him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what did it. And I'm like million and one odds chance of that ever happening. And now he permanently has a scar on his face because of me.
Are the odds
Awesome.
really that low? I don't know.
Yeah, you mean, yeah, because the rest of like the plastic bottle is like squishy plastic that you can bend it by just like putting a little bit of pressure on it. So like the one part that's actually hard enough for it to actually do damage, it's like it's amazing.
I also bend if you put enough pressure on me, so I get it.
That's true.
I do remember last time.
Mm-hmm.
Brody, I wanted to get you in here quickly. That's shown to be a scary idea. I was looking at our numbers. You've only been on one episode of this show so far.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
unless you count the pre-shows, but yeah.
Which we're legally not allowed to.
yeah. So I just wanted to check in. How are you? How have you been? It's been a while.
Good. Yeah, no, I've been very good. I've slipped into a months-long depression as I got to the end of Tears of the Kingdom, because
That's a mood.
I mean, it went from fun game to like chore checklist in like the final half, and but I still felt compelled to play it because it's like, oh, it's fun, but also end me, please.
So which furbait character was your favorite?
Here's the problem: is Cass wasn't in it, and Cass is the best.
Feathered, not fur.
Well,
That's the main problem I'd say with that.
okay. So wait, so then Sidon's off the table too, then, because he's
you can still say Sidon if he gets you rocking.
he's scaled, right?
He's not furry.
Yeah, and then
shut up. Same thing.
you can't use.
Is it?
Is there any fur? I guess Raru, but that's
It'd just be Raru, yeah.
He's a goat.
But that's like
That's
it.
Are goats not furry?
No, he's saying that's the only one that counts because that's the only one with fur.
But there's Spoilers.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is there's really only those two, right? Like, there's no other characters with.
So include the fucking fish, you fish fucker,
Well,
and the birds.
I wanted to include the bird, but apparently that wasn't allowed. I couldn't pick Cass.
Who said that's not allowed?
Chris.
Oh, what the fuck, Chris?
I just wanted to see how far that would go. So basically, Brody, you had like 300 hours of a game, and we're like, man, I got to keep playing this thing, huh? You didn't go for the ending.
Yeah, well, the thing is where everything kind of started to go downhill was that I accidentally ran into the ending probably about like 66% of the way through my playthrough.
Accidentally.
Yeah. Like just completely by accident.
Oh wait, did you jump into the?
Yeah.
That final hole. Yeah, I did the same thing and got like a suspicion that like I'm not supposed to be here, so I just left.
Be careful with that final hole.
And I'm glad I did.
I don't know what you're talking about. I still haven't beaten the game.
Yeah,
Justin,
that's why
hurry up.
I'm trying to say it vaguely.
I'll say it vaguely, but also it is the game's worst mystery because obviously that's where the game is. Like they try to keep it like suspicious. Like, whoa, where is he? It's like, well, yeah, obviously he's there. What are you talking about?
Right. It's like walking around Bowser's castle and being like, I don't know where he is, Luigi. What Bowser could he be?
I'm always saying this.
Bowser.
I'm always saying this. Yeah,
Nice
that's
in the-
interesting though about feeling like the game became a checklist to chore thing for you. Because I started to recognize that in myself in the game. And that was around the 95-hour mark. And I was like, I need my life back for one thing. So I'm going to end this game right now and keep it like a purely positive all the way through memory instead of making myself see it all. As much as I wanted to see it all. Because I love that game. But
that's really interesting because I love, like, I deliberately try to make sure that I am playing at least one checklist game at all times. Like, just have it like as my current game that I'm playing. Right now, it is currently a mix between still Tears of the Kingdom because I'm still fucking going through it, but also Far Cry 6.
Far Cry 6.
Far Cry is a really good turn off your brain sort of checklist game.
Yeah.
Like, because I like checklist games. I like the Elder Scrolls shit, except Elder Scrolls got pretty boring pretty fast for me. But no, that's interesting because you're like, oh, it's turning into a checklist, and I'm like, that's what I was doing from the start.
This was always a checklist for me, bro.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm checklisting right now.
What ended up happening, and I you know, and there's a few different ways, and this isn't a Tears of the Kingdom stream, so I'll just keep this short. But it's just I Ubisofted myself by keeping a very meticulous track of like, you know, oh, I would ping 5 things and then want to go off in a different direction, so I'd leave down markers and kind of know what I had. Contrast with, you know, like playing Breath of the Wild, where I didn't do that till like the end, and so I begin like where these games kind of get rid of that open world fatigue by not having all of that map with all of those icons. I just through meticulous record keeping ended up making the game that, and it just sort of took the magic away in a lot of ways.
Oh no, you fell into making it the thing it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
So by the end, when by the time I accidentally got to the ending, I had explored basically all of the overworld and almost like maybe 25% of the undercarriage, but like I knew where everything was because obviously there's that correlation. So the ending of the game became, you know, make a machine out of 9 fans and a steering stick and then just go to every light route. And there's not much interesting down there. There's not much variety down there. So it's just sort of like go in straight line, go in straight line, get, you know, there's
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying not to make this take over the podcast. I could talk about this for hours. But no, that has me curious. Like, how did you use a guide at all or a map for anything?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's technically a lie. I think I used it. I did look up one. You know what? I will say I give this game a lot of guff for not having any puzzles that made me think. Because it just didn't. I found like every single puzzle extremely easy. But the one where you have to like do the shade to get the one like Misko's treasure like over in the mushroom area. I hadn't been to the shrine yet that like establishes shade as a puzzle mechanic. So that one I actually did look up, but that's because it's if you don't know what's going on, it's unbelievably obtuse. But
I don't think I found that one yet.
I don't think I did either. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I hope we
All
don't have to cut any of this out because it's spoiler.
No, I think this is all fairly light. I don't think there's.
All right, I think we should move on. Quick, finishing thoughts. Brody, how much do you hate Tears of the Kingdom?
Medium amount, because the first 10 hours is good, and like the middle like 20 hours after you've done like the 4 main areas is also pretty good, and then like the rest is just kind of like
less words.
Go here, do this. Yeah, that's it.
You're taking too long.
Well, the past 2 days I've been playing Inscription and having a much better time. The end.
Oh my god, okay. Well, if you want good Tears of the Kingdom opinions, please come to the Crub official YouTube channel. Brody's not in this chat, but me, Trav Guy, and the Golden Bolt are on there talking about our spoiler impressions of Tears of the Kingdom, and we tell you what you want to hear, so we'll confirm the feelings
all your
you
biases.
want, and you'll feel good after listening to it.
I literally I put a bug on your computer just to find out what your thoughts are because it's also connected to your brain, and I say exactly what you want to hear.
Wow. We should do that more often.
We should. There's a lot of marketing potential in that.
I'm gonna
So
be
I need to
honest.
jump in.
I felt a lot. I felt
Justin,
very
please.
similar to how Brody felt, and that's what prompted me to go and try some other games instead of playing Zelda for 8 hours a day. And I think that's a little good of a segue into the topic today, which is appreciating some of the indie games that
I'm gonna cut you
based
off,
on-
Justin.
okay.
Go.
I was letting you go because I wanted to get back into the plugs. I want to say I find that interesting first off because you were a big Breath of the Wild guy, not a
I
Zelda
love
guy.
Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
So we should touch on that some other time. But something I need to throw out. We have plugs. If you are listening to us on YouTube, thank you. Drop us a like. We upload our podcast video version every Friday at noon Eastern. Audio versions go up at 7 a.m. Eastern each week. If you prefer podcast platforms, you can come You can come chat with us live Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. We're considering a move to YouTube, but for now, it's Twitch. And there's more reason to do so now because we're actually moving our episodes to a 10-day delay. So today's episode, when we're recording it, goes up the week after on Friday. What this means for you, basically nothing. There's no disruption. But if you want to come hang out, chat with us, topical, we do pre and post shows and hang out and chat with you guys. Come on.
Check it out.
Come on.
Yeah.
You can also find us in other places.
Come here.
Man.
We know
You
you
can
have
also
a good
find
time.
us on
Just
other
come here,
places,
come here.
including Spotify, Justin's Kitchen, and my backyard.
Come to
Justin's
the.
kitchen.
Ooh, are
My
we all
mind was
going to
just
Trav's
like, get to
backyard?
the podcast review mention, make them mention the podcast review. So I was like, yeah, come on, guys.
Come on.
Give
Just
them.
come on.
Can you
5-star
tell I haven't
review,
had to do a
please.
plug before for the show?
Come
But
on,
anyway,
guys.
yes, please. We appreciate everyone who's been listening. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to still kick Justin's shins and say the thing he was about to say. But today, Brody actually came up with this topic, which I thought was a good one. Because it's I think we've all interacted with, but maybe we don't actually acknowledge it as much, which is the indie spiritual successor, ideally one that's good to games we love. And Brody had some immediately good examples, like obviously Stardew Valley, Spark the Electric Jester 2, which was a pull I forgot about even, which is what made me want to do this topic, because I was like, oh yeah, that game totally applies. I guess I just wanted to run with that and just actually talk about games that are good, because the indie space I feel like is in a good space compared to the AAA gaming space, where there's variety and there's actual fun things to be had that aren't very depressing to think about and microtransaction filled and all those fun things. But specifically, I think there's also maybe a weird double thing too, where sometimes the indie spiritual successor is kind of just the old thing, but again, and it doesn't push past that too much either. So I think there's a lot to talk about here today. Justin, I will now hand it back to you since I so rudely took this intro from you.
How could you?
Justin,
Because I
what
was
is
like,
one-
I gotta segue. I got this. Is all great. And Chris is like,
Yeah.
no, I'm stealing it.
like,
It's mine now.
someone's gonna keep this on the rails. Yeah, Justin, like, what attracts you to a game like this? Because I feel like every few months we kind of see one, and it usually happens on Twitter, where it's like, oh man, this thing's just like the old thing I like. Like, is it just a specific game generally, which I know is broad, or is it like a genre you tend to pay attention to? Do you even keep an eye out for things, or do these just kind of fall into your lap?
Yeah, so they definitely come and fall into my lap. One game I really wanted, I just want to say the name of this game, so that way when I'm watching this podcast myself later, I'm reminded to like look it up again. Plucky Squire. Really want to play that game. It's an indie game. I don't know if it has basis on anything, but I really want to play it. Continuing on to the question you asked.
Okay. It looks pretty good.
It
I
looks
like
great.
Justin.
I just want to give a quick shout out to
notes.
Yes. I'm not opening up my nose app. I'm just gonna say Plucky Squire. Go look at it.
You know,
Just a reminder to wash the dishes tomorrow for myself.
just a reminder: set this podcast live on Friday.
but not
so
this
true.
upcoming Friday. The next one. So
Yes, please go on.
usually the games kind of just fall in my lap. It's usually retweeted by some content creator that I follow, and I like the games that they play. Therefore, they put games on my Twitter feed that then remind me that they exist. An amazing example of that, Buck Up and Drive. That is one that I saw it on Twitter once, and it was just like immediately implanted into my
Is that the
memory.
one where you're doing like skater tricks?
Yeah, it's Outrun.
Yeah, I love that
but
one.
you're basically you're playing Outrun, but you can like grind on all the rails and you can do like kickflips and stuff like that. It's awesome. So that's one, and then another one that just comes up into my mind every single time is Bomb Rush Cyberfunk.
Yes.
And that's just one that someone I follow on Twitter is really into Jet Set Radio. So every time there's anything Bomb Rush Cyberfunk related, it just pops up on my Twitter feed, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're making that.
And that's an interesting one to me, because I am wondering, in specific with regards to Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, if it will end up being sort of this Jet Set Radio carbon copy, or if it's going to try to streamline some of what I think. Jet Set Radio, great game, but there's moments in it where I'm like, this is breaking the pace, right? Like when you're doing the graffiti or you're doing something, it's just sort of like stops you in that moment of like what is an otherwise extreme sports game where you just have a sense of flow. So I'm hoping to see if they improve on that a bit, because obviously it is a Dreamcast. I mean, I know there's an Xbox one as well, I think, right? But
Yeah,
it's on Steam
Future.
as well. Not Future, but original Jet Set Radio is on Steam as well.
Right.
But what I've played of Jet Set Radio, it felt really clunky. At least original Jet Set Radio, not Future. Jet Set Radio 1 feels really, really clunky.
I agree.
And like, it doesn't
I was
feel
sitting
like
here weighing like, oh man, do I need to be the guy that's like, I don't like playing Jet Set Radio, but I like everything else about it?
No,
Do I have
I'll
to
be that
the
guy.
fun killer.
I'll be that guy. It's not very fun to play. It's you go into that game expecting like for it to be an arcadey like extreme sports game, and it's just not that. It really isn't. It's kind of like it's like platforming, but with really buttery controls because you're on skates. You're on rollerblades.
Yeah. I like your two examples specifically because to me, they kind of represent like both ends of how I feel like these things tend to go, at least for like the big profile ones, right? Because Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, that's a game that, as far as we've seen, or at least I've personally seen just from the things I've looked at, that game is just, yo, they're not going to make Jet Set Radio, so we're going to make Jet Set Radio. And like, there's some differences and things like that, but it kind of looks like they're emulating Jet Set Radio extremely much. So,
I hope that they don't.
Every time you say the
it's
name of this
Future?
game, I think you're making something up. I'll be honest.
Right?
It doesn't roll off the tongue particularly well, no, but it's just so much like that old game. But I look at Bug Up and Drive, and I feel like the elevator pitch on that one is really good in that it is like an outrun, like it is like an old school arcade driving game, but, and there's a but, right? But it's this crazy kinetic, like you have to look at it to believe how wild it looks kind of game at the same time, and it pays tribute, but it's also doing something completely different, and you've pretty much never seen anything like it before, right? And that's a thing where like I wish Bomb Rush Cyberfunk was that, because there are some of these games from indies that are wonderful, obviously, and I think this game will probably be pretty good from looking at it, but I wish there was like just one more thing it was doing. Like I wish there's just one thing to separate it from just being, yo, we're making Jet Set Radio because Psycho won't, or are.
Yeah, because
Apparently, but,
that
you know.
that first leak, the first game from that leak is now existing, and it's Persona 3 Reloaded, and
Right, yes.
it's now
Leak,
like
you say?
yeah, there was a
Can you
leak.
please inform me, because this is news to me.
There was a Sega leak years ago when they first showed off the Sonic Frontiers engine,
Okay.
and with that engine they also did Persona 3 Reloaded and then a new HD version of Jet Set Radio. So Persona 3 Reloaded is coming out in November of 2023, and Sonic Frontiers already exists. So there's only one left in that leak that we haven't seen yet, and it is Jet Set Radio.
Okay.
So if Jet Set Radio shows
Interesting.
up and just rains on Bomb
Dude.
Rush Cyberfunk's parade, that'd
Jet
be
Set
really-
Radio fans are finally going to have something to eat.
Yeah.
Finally, right, yeah.
They've had something to eat for a while.
Nope, shut up.
Lest we forget.
Brody is a great example. I know where Brody's going.
Let-
Brody, please.
Lest we forget Hover Revolution of Gamers.
Nope. I did
You made
forget
that
about
up.
it because I don't know it exists.
That
I'm
game.
gonna be linking to a lot of the games you mentioned in the show notes, by the way, if you're listening to one and you're like, what the heck? What on earth is Hover Revolution of Gamers? Just scroll down and I got you. Just to clarify.
think we're all
Yeah, it's not a
asking
good
that.
name.
No,
Thank you, Chris.
Well,
I think it's a fantastic name.
It's only called Hover on some things. On some things, it's called Hover Revolution of Gamers. Some things, it's just Hover because I guess they decided that it tracks better on consoles or something if it has a different name. I don't know. But you look at the trailer, and to look at the trailer is like, oh, wow, they're doing like a Jet Set Radio, but it's got like its own style, and it's kind of like in that vein of like extreme sports. Like it's like almost evocative like SSX or whatever. And then I bought it. And I played it, and it starts with I don't know. The tutorial is like a stealth segment with like lasers, and you have to avoid. And it's not good. It feels like ass to control. Like it's
It's not what you think of, right? To like what Justin was saying, like you kind of expect kind of an extreme sports thing. And like when you watch the trailer for Hover, like another key feature I think you should mention, or we should mention, is that it has online multiplayer, and you can like skate around with people.
That
And
sounds
it looks
cool.
very exciting. Like that would fit into what I was saying a bit ago of like, oh, it's like Jet Set Radio, but right. And this cool thing is it has multiplayer and stuff like that. But the second you mentioned to me specifically when we talked about this a couple months back that had a stealth mission, I was like, that's the last thing I ever want to imagine doing what Jet Set Radio controls. Like, it's skating. You're not supposed to tiptoe around. You're skating.
And it's the most like bare bone. Like, you know when there's a stealth segment in Zelda and you're like, oh, they didn't think this through as well as, like, you know, Hideo Kojima would think through stealth. It's just, this is the most bare bone stealth you can imagine. It is that, and it is jarring to say the least.
Love it.
It's so weird to put that at the start of that game.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to teach you the controls. I don't know if there's more stealth segments in the game. I hope not. I desperately hope not, but I didn't get past it. Like, I didn't get into the open world where the game probably gets fun, maybe, I assume.
You're giving it a lot of credit.
First impression. Yeah,
you're giving it a lot of credit.
I don't want to poo-poo Hover just in case it is pretty good.
But you know, that does bring up with Jet Set Radio and you know, Outrun and these games. It does bring up, I think, an interesting topic with regards to these indie successors, which is how Sega has a lot of them. I think, right? Like, Sega has sort of cultivated a culture of, hey, you know, do fan games, or, you know, and do spiritual success, or I don't know, like, fans just seem to really like to focus on Sega more than, like, oh, you know, someone trying to make a Nintendo successor. Not that they don't exist, obviously. I have a list of like 20 or 25 here, and there's definitely some on there, but it does seem that Sega gets the most of it.
Like, when was the last time you saw an indie game that was like, we're like the 3D Zelda games, right? Like,
God. I just saw a new one from fucking, what was it, Apogee posted a few days ago. Dude, fucking Apogee literally used to be like one of the titans of PC gaming back in the 90s, and now they're doing build your own Zelda.
Bubsy.
Oh, that one. Okay, that one's the 2D Dungeon Maker, right? I was sitting here like, what? 3D Zelda Apogee? What?
Oh, no, not 3D.
Yeah,
sorry.
They're doing like Zelda Maker, like we thought Nintendo was going to do after they did Mario Maker.
And see, for something like that, the appeal really is, as soon as Nintendo decides to do this on their own, there's no reason for me to come back to this project.
That is the thing, yeah. The thing is,
so like, I get the appeal of like, oh, we're going to make this so that we're not going to. Like, I can't fucking comment on whatever game it was you were talking about, the Jet Set Radio clone. I already forgot the name.
It's not a great name.
Cyberfunk?
Like, I already forgot.
It's not a great name.
It's word salad.
Like, as soon as, you know, the studio that they're trying to copy makes one of their own, they need to have a whole other reason to pitch it to me.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree I think when looking at something like Mario Maker, that game leaves a lot to be desired from me. And a lot of this probably does come from growing up on Little Big Planet, which is just, it's so much more robust in its creation suite. That
the AAA indie spiritual success.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not trying to get on that as a topic, but it is like, with you know, I would hope, right, that this Zelda Maker would just be bold enough to do things that Nintendo would just not allow you to do in their Zelda Maker.
I agree completely. I hope so.
I think Nintendo
it does
has
not
a
look
lot
like that'll be the case.
Yeah, Nintendo has like a lot of legacy things that they feel like they have to honor. They can't go too out there, because then you're gonna not have the essence of what made that thing in the end. At least that's the way it felt like with Mario Maker. I mean, with Mario Maker though, they had like the Link suit, which was really cool. They had like the Link power up where you could just like shoot arrows and stuff like that and pick up bombs.
They put Sonic in there.
They did put Sonic in there, but that was only in the first one.
They put the man from Game Center CX in there.
They put Nisekoi.
Mario.
They had Nisekoi. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Meat Stick Boy.
Stuff with that.
It's an anime. It's like a harem anime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
All right, now I'm doubting that this is real.
No, it's in there.
Stick Boy.
That's not real. Nisekoi.
Okay.
No, I legit thought you said Meat Stick Boy.
Meat Stick Boy.
No,
that's what I heard. What can I say?
Are you hungry?
No, I ate before the stream.
Do you want to eat?
Yeah.
Brody's got the Knuckles G Fuel.
Dude, can I have some of that rain, bro? Oh, wait, the rain's not there anymore.
No, the rain is gone. The rain...
I'm not explaining context to the people listening at home.
I can see clearly now. The rain has gone.
That's all the context you need is from Justin.
Yeah. I think the Zelda Maker one is safe, because I feel like Nintendo got as close as they're going to get with that Link's Awakening remake Dungeon Maker. Because I think the secret lesson is that it's really hard to make a Zelda dungeon, and Nintendo probably knows that from making Zelda dungeons. So they're probably like, we're going to give you this, and then we're not going to revisit this idea ever. So that's why I'm mostly really curious about that one, which I should get the name of really quick, because I actually don't remember the name of it.
But speaking
it was
on
Poopy Town 75 or something.
that's the one.
That's
Poopy Town 75. That should be on their Steam reviews. Poopy Town 75.
Questmaster. That's the name of it.
It's one of the things where to make a Mario game, right? You are just kind of popping up obstacles, and you don't have to do much else. But for Zelda, you actually need to like program in the logic of, oh, you've solved this puzzle this specific way, now this happens, which other game makers have done before, but Nintendo seems to want to streamline the process such that you don't have to learn like visual based programming the way that you need to in like Little Big Planet 2. Like you can actually, someone made the first Zelda dungeon in Little Big Planet 2 when it came out. Like it is a 1-to-1 recreation of the Zelda dungeon. You play it like Zelda. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's crazy to see that. And I don't think Nintendo would ever go so obtuse and not user unfriendly, because I do think that game is the friendliest game creator, period. But like,
this is a smaller net for
next
sure.
up, Project Dreams. Come on now.
Oh, don't get me on Project
I was watching a video about Dreams earlier today. I saw one where it was like roast the weenie, and you just put a hot dog in a fire and it started screaming.
It sounds like a WarioWare minigame.
It does sound like a WarioWare minigame.
Trav, I wanted to touch with you.
Hi.
On this. Hey, how you
Welcome
doing?
back to the Crubcast.
Hey, what's going on?
Did we
I'm
leave?
your host, Georgian.
Sub Georgian.
Are you from the country of Georgia?
From Delaware.
Nice.
That makes more sense.
Hey, what's up,
Hey, sorry.
I wanted to get with you on this because there's one that probably your audience would associate with you that we touched on when planning this episode, which is Ultrakill, which you said something that intrigued me, in that it's not so much a successor to a game.
No, it's not.
But it's a successor to a genre. And I know Justin has played it too. So I wanted to ask, in this specific case, like, what is it a successor to, and in what way in a genre, right? Like, I've lost track of the designation. Boom.
Right, so,
talk to me about it.
The term these days is retro shooter or throwback shooter, because
I think I like that more.
I do too. I called them boomer shooters for a while, and I still will in certain scenarios. But at the end of the day, people are like, oh, but boomers didn't play this. I don't get it. Which is a fair assumption, honestly. The whole, like, literally, okay, you know that, like, Reddit meme of the dude in sunglasses holding a white Monster energy drink? That's where the name boomer shooter came from, is because people would crack open their can of Diet Monster Energy and say, these games aren't made the way they used to be, and then take a sip. That's literally what it was. They would
I'm just
like that,
man, energy drinks are really part of the show today, huh?
no,
Yeah,
like that.
I was surprised. He lifted it up, and I was like, okay, can we get the other two to just get theirs in there, and we'll just have a quad energy.
I mean, it did indoctrinate me into drinking White Monster. So
for the shorts, I just
thanks,
want
Reddit.
you and Chris and Trav there, and then just this episode's really about energy drinks, and it just pans over to Brody.
I like Justin planning the shorts in episode. Once again, just like doing his notes app, but like live.
Out loud.
Trav, tell me more about what you're going to say.
So I'll keep the history lesson short. Basically, people were calling themselves boomers because the way that boomers act in real life towards things that are important are the way that they acted towards video games. They felt like games weren't made the way they used to, and this was really popular during like back when Call of Duty and other military simulators were like the only FPSs you got. This was before Doom 2016 came out and changed everything. Right. And so there was that wave. Like Doom 2016 started this whole slew of retro Doom-like shooters. Doom-like was or Doom clone was a term in the like 90s for anything that was a first-person shooter, and they sort of came back. And then they're just like, oh no, we're calling them boomer shooters because we're boomers. of like video games. And then as it went more mainstream and like indie devs like New Blood embraced it, then it kind of just started to fall off. Not because they embraced it, but because people got confused.
Okay. And what makes Ultrakill, or maybe even any game, one of these?
Sure.
Like, what's the distinction there?
So this is a game that I don't know if you guys would know. If I were to pick a game from the same developer, which was New Blood, I mentioned them just a moment ago. If I were to pick a game that would probably be more accurately a spiritual successor, I would say Dusk. If you play Dusk, it literally starts with a fake like DOS prompt thing that you watch start up. So like it's actually more of a throwback to that, except it does its own thing and it does it really well. One of the mechanics in it is otherwise it's just Quake. It's literally just Quake. It feels like Quake, except when you jump into the air, you're not restricted by looking straight up, so you can literally do flips and everything goes upside down. It's really disorienting. I almost threw up.
It sounds like it.
It was really fun though. But yeah, we were talking about like, hey Travis, what games? And I didn't respond until today. This was like 2 weeks ago. Like, oh yeah, what games would Travis like? He'd probably choose Ultrakill and Pizza Tower. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, honestly. And there was one other game that I'm going to talk about more later, if I have the opportunity to. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But no, we were talking about like Ultrakill, but Ultrakill is more a genre. We're finally going back to this point after I kind of deviated for a bit. But Ultrakill is the meshing of two genres with a visual style that feels like PC games of the early 2000s, where we're still kind of in that low poly PS1 era, I guess. I should say late 90s probably. But deliberately, and in this case it's an art style choice. It's not just them turning down the rendering whatever. But so many old FPSs of those times had a lot of similarities. That's why they were called Doom-likes for so long, is because they literally just took these same mechanics of Doom and painted their own stuff over them, maybe changed some enemies and then created whole new levels from it. There's a Star Wars game from the 90s that is basically just Doom, because like it's the same thing. You're going around collecting key cards, opening up more of the map, getting new weapons as you go along for the episode, and then you start a new episode and all your weapons are gone, that kind of thing. So in a way,
Dark Forces?
Sure.
Is that the name of it?
Yes, Dark Forces. Yeah. That was it. I had to remember because I'm like, yeah, probably.
It sounds like a Star Wars name. I don't know. Sure.
But no, I mean,
so basically it's like a mission based find an object to continue and proceed with the mission kind of successor.
Gotcha. You know, every level your keys reset. You have to find the red and blue and yellow key all over again. But you use them in different ways. They're just contextual to that level.
I find these
and it's
curious.
very labyrinthian, is another thing that a lot of the modern throwback shooters don't tend to do as much.
Gotcha. I find these games curious because it's more that I just haven't played them, so I just don't have that connection with them. And someone I would associate to be that way with is Justin. Justin, I know you've played Ultrakill and liked Ultrakill. Was it your first kind of one of these? I know you've also played the new Doom games at the least, but
I played the first one I played was Doom Eternal, and I played it on easy mode to
With the
show Nico
controller.
to show Nico that it wasn't hard. And then and then after that I watched Trav's video of Ultrakill first one, and I watched that video and I was like, oh, this game looks really cool, so I played it, and that game is masterful. That game does an amazing blending of, and this is where Ultrakill becomes its own thing. It's a blend of the genres of a retro shooter, but it's also a beat 'em up game, because it has it's just a Devil May Cry game where the point of the game is to do things as crazily as possible and get as much score as possible. So that's the reason why that one is kind of in a league of its own, because it does its own thing. It has that, it's Doom, but that you were talking about earlier in the episode, it has its reason to keep coming back. Yeah. And then every update they keep adding into that game, it just gets crazier and crazier. And I'm just like, I don't know how they get further from there.
It is like, I know I just sound like a fanboy to anyone who doesn't have the context of Ultrakill, but like, it really feels like a game that shouldn't exist, because they do so much cool stuff with it that, you know, you would think wouldn't work. And then it does. Like, you have infinite ammo, nothing, like, at worst, things need to recharge, but you don't need to pick up ammo. Your weapons, like, comparing it to a beat 'em up, which it definitely is.
Interesting.
It's a beat 'em up, but your guns are your weapons, and you're quickly switching between the different guns the same way that you would mix up your combos in a beat 'em up. Which Doom Eternal kind of did that in a way, but didn't force you to. This game is.
It hard punishes you for picking the same weapon over and over.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, like, yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, maybe not Ultrakill, because that, I think Justin explained it perfectly, so I'm going to try to explain it again and steal his thunder. Basically, it's in a league of its own, yeah.
It's masterful, too, because, like, so many of the attachments for some guns then work with other guns. Like how the coin that comes from the pistol, you can use your railgun and shoot the coin, and it splits off and explodes everything. Or you can charge up your, like, shotgun and then shoot the shotgun and core snipe it and then make everything explode. Like, it's amazing.
So, like, you can charge up, like, a grenade launcher attachment for your shotgun, but then shoot the grenade before it hits anything to make the explosion bigger. Just shit like that. Okay. It's so much fun.
I think I wanted to target Justin and follow up on this then, because I was kind of approaching Justin with this.
Shut the fuck up, Travis.
Yeah, Trav guy talking on the podcast you're on, you monster. But I was initially curious. I was like, oh, I wonder if this made Justin want to branch out and check other ones. But it's sounding like this one is so A, good, and B, unique that maybe it wouldn't have. Like, I can't think of any other things like this that are maybe more applicable to the indie successor thing. But did it make you want to look at anything else, or were you just like, I want more Ultrakill?
I think Prodeus is one that is another one that's like the 2D pixel art kind of.
Prodeus is really good.
It was on Game Pass. It didn't really scratch the same itches as Ultrakill did for me.
Yeah.
So I gave it a shot, and I was like, it's good. It is good, but it is closer to Doom than it is to Ultrakill. Yes. And I was looking for more Ultrakill than I was looking for more Doom. Because if I wanted to play Doom,
and there's not really much out there right now that's like that.
No, there really isn't, and so it's just kind of waiting.
The successor to Ultrakill is what I'm hearing.
We're waiting for Act 3, baby. Act 3 is gonna be so sick. But no, it really was just Prodeus didn't have the hook that Ultrakill did, in that Prodeus is more Doom. So if you like Doom, you can play that, and there's more of that. But if you want Ultrakill, there's kind of nowhere to go to get more of that.
Yeah. Gotcha. I can relate in a way to take this in a different direction and wrote Brody back in. You mentioned Spark the Electric Jester 2 to me in this way.
Yeah.
Which by basically every account is a Sonic, kind of continuation or inspired by kind of deal.
Yeah.
The first game specifically maybe has like a little Kirby in it with some ability stealing, but especially 2, which is a 3D game. There's a lot of 3D Sonic in there.
It was the closest thing that I think has actually approximated that adventure style of gameplay. Not to say that it is a perfect recreation. It does have there are points where you can kind of see it almost taking cues from like the Boost games.
Yes, that surprised me. Because to cut in real quick, like what I mostly heard about Spark the Electric Jester was through Sonic fans, and so many of this vocal minority were like, oh, dude, this is the adventure games brought back, dude. Like, this is the thing. This is the sauce, bro. And if you're an adventure game fan of the Sonic Adventure games, you know that there's not really anything else like them, right? Like, if you're chasing that dragon, if you like those games, there's not really anything else like them. Even later 3D Sonic games can't really get you there, So it was very intriguing. So intriguing that I didn't play it until last night when we were getting ready to do this episode.
Funny story about that. I remember when we first played Fall Guys, Chris was really upset because he was like, "Man, if this game was like Adventure, I'd be smoking all of you fools." But we can't.
Fall Guys?
Yeah, because the Fall Guys platforming was closer to something else than it was to Adventure, and he's a big Adventure guy, so he was like, "Man,
what?
Yeah, dude,
Sonic
you let Chris play any platformer, and he's like, should be more like Sonic."
Am I being gaslit right now? What's happening? I don't remember seeing this.
It definitely happened because it was during when Fall Guys was free on PS Plus. So we all picked it up together.
Well, I mean, we definitely played it. I don't remember being like, oh man, if this was Sonic Adventure, I'd be smoking your ass, bro. I was salty about not being good at that
Yeah.
game, but I do not remember this.
When are
Oh,
they
no, you
adding the
specifically-
But I trust you.
That's funny.
No, you specifically were upset because you couldn't win a game. You never
Well,
got
yeah,
a crown.
of course.
And
It
then
was
you were
quite
like,
upsetting.
and then you were like, man, if this was like Sonic Adventure, I'd be able to get a better handle of these controls.
If I could spin dash jump and skip every obstacle, I'd be set. Fall Guys is by Mediatonic. Mediatonic made Sonic the Hedgehog level maker. Sonic the Hedgehog, right? That's how we get back. Brody,
Yeah.
I'm just stuck here like, oh my god, I think I'm being gaslit, but I guess I gotta keep going with this episode. Anyway, basically, I finally played Spark the Electric Jester 2. I played 1, and I don't even know if I need to disclose this, but just in case, in the instance of fairness, I kickstarted the first Spark the Electric Jester. And I was technically a beta tester on it, in the sense that
Oh, you poor
the
thing.
developer... What?
You poor thing.
Why poor thing? What?
Continue.
Beta testing fucking sucks. All right, never mind. Sorry.
But to continue...
I thought I was being funny.
Lake Feppard sent me a build of the game, and I had a lot going on that year, so I completely forgot to respond to the developer, so I didn't actually beta test the game. But I was like, that's like,
Okay.
I should probably disclose that just in case. But I finally played 2, and I was going in ready to not like it, to give some ups here, because I had all this like noise about it being like a Sonic Adventure follow-up. And I watched, I'll call him out. I watched Kevin play some of 3, and it seemed like very confused. Like I didn't really have a good grasp on what the game was doing from watching Kevin play it. And I was like, oof, I guess the people who like this, good for them. But I played 2, and I gotta say, I was really surprised by how fun it was. I think, to your point, especially Brody, it does feel... It does take some things from the adventure games, but I was thinking so much more of like the Boost Sonic games and like specific visual elements that were making me think of like Sonic Colors specifically with this game. But it was fun. It was so much fun. I was not expecting to go into this and like it so much, and I'm a little scared by how much I like it.
Yeah.
It's quite simple. The story is not worth mentioning.
No.
You don't even play as Spark in it. You play as like
You play as
Sonic.
Fark. Is he supposed to be
Are you making
Sonic?
this up? Are you?
I
he's
assumed he was
Fark.
supposed to be Shadow. Although actually,
There's a character
Yeah,
like
yeah,
him
yeah.
that's color coded to Shadow also,
Yeah.
who says, quote, okay, not direct quote, but he basically says you hit it up your butt at one point during a cutscene, and that was when I mentally tuned out of the story. So if you don't like Sonic, maybe that just sounds like Sonic to you. But I was really impressed by this game in that it handles speed pretty well. Even the Boost Sonic games, or even like the slower 3D Sonic games like Adventure, so many of these narrow paths have guardrails on the side just because they can't trust you to not fly off the actual stage. This game extremely rarely has guardrails, and you go pretty quick. You have like a pen dropping button, and you also have a dash button on the trigger to make you go fast. And I never once flew off the end of like a noodling in the sky pathway Sonic style. I never once went off, and I was so impressed by that and the fact that I could move my control stick right. I'm in really deep Sonic territory here. Sorry.
No,
Basically,
you're
it was good.
I know what
Brody,
you're saying.
Brody, you need to talk some.
I know what you're saying exactly.
Brody,
because
please take the mic.
I think what really gets it into the more like the adventure territory is that you can, like it's a couple years back now, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you can stop on a dime, right? Like you have for what is a lot of forward momentum, you have a lot more control than you do in the Boost games.
Yes, but actually the Boost games had something I wish this did have. For those unfamiliar, in like Sonic Unleashed, Colors, etc., you have a stomp, which basically kills your forward momentum and sends you straight down. There were many instances in this game where I wished I had that, because I would try to aim on a precise platform and I just keep flying past it and die. That was the thing, but that was a weird double-edged sword where like that was me going out of my way to try to engage with the 3D platforming instead of just running forward and going fast. And anytime I tried to do that, I was like, oh, I wish I had the stomp from Sonic Unleashed. But if I wasn't trying to actively engage with the platforming outside of one level, that was never an issue. So
Yeah, I think
Hey?
the most criminal thing that game does, more so than the boss fights, which are baffling on some level. Although, really a precursor to Sonic Frontiers, if you think about it. The most criminal thing that it does is it's so short. I think it took me 3 hours of just kind of like, it's weird to say meandering through that game because you're going fast, but I was taking my time with it. And I was surprised when it just sort of ended. Obviously, it's built for replayability, go back in, get a better score, try the different routes, all your standard Sonic stuff. But I was just honestly really surprised at how it just sort of ends. So I do want to play 3 at some point because I'm just like, I want to hop back in there and play more. But
I'm curious to play 3. I guess if you think about it, though, Sonic Adventure, Sonic Story, that's like what, an hour? Sonic Adventure 2, if you play one of the story pass, that's like an hour and a half, right? It just kind of doesn't waste your time with a lot of the extra stuff you can get into, I guess.
That's a good point.
Better or worse. That example has Chao Garden included, which is fun, but it doesn't pad you like a Sonic Unleashed does, let's say.
No, that's a great point because like I'm usually in these games not compelled that much to go back and like get a better score. If there's time trials or like S ranks, that's a different story. I think I like to go and do those. But just basic score, it's not really something that incentivizes me. But in Sonic Adventure 2 specifically, I played that game hours and hours and hours, and I think a lot of that is that Chao Garden element of like go back, get rings. Obviously it has the other missions and stuff, but like it really was just play City Escape over and over and over again. Enjoy the song, get the rings, get stuff for your Chao. And maybe that was really just what it was missing. I think every Sonic game is missing Chao Garden. Right? Like it adds so much to an experience that you don't think it does, but it's like.
I guess that's where you can look forward to what's his name? Chadtronic's Poglins? Is that the Chao Garden indie successor?
Excuse me?
That's on Kickstarter. Poglins, right? I'm pretty sure it was Poglins. As mentioned before, we do stream these lives. I'm gonna glance over to see if Track confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it was Poglins, which was by all accounts just indie Chao Garden. So that could maybe be looked forward to.
It's kind of bizarre to me how much Sega knows that we love the Chao Garden and how much they don't want to give it back to us. Like they could just make it a Tamagotchi.
That's literally my favorite part of Sonic Adventure as a kid.
Yeah,
you could just make like a Tamagotchi version on your phone and just have the Chaos run around on your phone and check them in every now and again. Like it seems like such a no-brainer, but yet they refuse to do it.
There are people there who know.
I know they do because they keep talking about it on Twitter. Like they keep talking about it.
I've always thought that like a really interesting take on it because so many people are like, oh, we don't want Chao Garden on mobile because you need that like that sort of timers. You need that back and forth. Well, like the whole making it a mobile game, but like assuming you made it like actual Chao Garden, it's on mobile, you can play it like without restriction. You still don't have that element of like being incentivized to like go back into a level, get rings or whatever, and bring that into it. I think if they did make a mobile one, the smart thing to do would be to attach it to every future Sonic game going forward. So like you play Sonic Frontiers, get a bunch of rings, import them into your mobile game. You play the next Sonic game, import that in, so it's sort of evergreen. And that way they never have to make a new Chao Garden again, and they can still attach it to all the Sonic games. Oh
my god. It's just Pokemon Home.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, man, that sounds a lot like the Pokemon Home issue, which means in 10 years you get like a disconnect notice on Sonic Frontiers. It's like your rings can't go to the tiny Chao Garden on iOS anymore, and you're like, why am I living?
God.
But
my brain
so
immediately...
Brody, you love going back and doing S ranks, and yet you don't like checklist games?
Well, because I mean, S ranks give me something to do that's like expressly different. It sort of changes the way that you approach the game, like where you might play through Sonic Generations the first time as like, oh, this is a fun Sonic game. When you go and you actually do the S ranks, it's like, oh no, this is a rhythm game now. This isn't like a platformer.
Okay.
This is like I'm playing Rock Band, and that's what I find so interesting.
I like that analogy.
Yeah,
because that's how it felt.
A list, but
that's how it felt for me when playing Pizza Tower.
Oh,
Are we ready to move on?
That's a great segue.
Yeah, no, that's.
I don't want to I don't want to step on Brody's feet more than I have to.
No, I like Wario Land. Go ahead,
dude. That's what I was gonna say. The original segue that I had planned for this was, what are spiritual successors that you don't really have a connection to but really enjoyed? Because for me, that's Pizza Tower. Because I have fond memories of playing Wario Land 4 growing up specifically, but I didn't have this huge attachment to it that made a lot of people fall in love with Pizza Tower, but I still did.
Pizza Tower's fun. It's really, really fun. You let me play it on your Steam Deck.
I did.
Too many games.
I'm happy I did, because watching you play it made me think, oh, Justin likes good games.
I like Ultrakill.
That's not where I was going to go with that, but that just sort of slipped out.
I was going to say, I like Ultrakill. What do you mean?
But I'm curious, like, because the people who like Pizza Tower really like Pizza Tower. They do not ever stop talking about Pizza Tower.
Hi.
I'm not saying give me a sales pitch, but all
right.
What specifically was the moment that hooked you on Pizza Tower?
Okay. I shit you not.
Huh?
It tickles my brain the same way that just like that. That's the sound my brain makes. It tickles my brain gameplay wise, because the aesthetic is a totally different thing.
It does look really cool.
The same way that the good 2D Sonics do. Sonic Mania and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, like that expert level design where it's like, it's linear, but there's different like ways you could do it, and like every time you play it, there's like something new that you end up finding, unless you're a maniac and you replay it a million times like I have with Sonic 3. But you know, like there's those branching paths, but then that feeling of it encourages you to learn the levels. And a lot of people, you know, I guess back on the discussion of like retro shit, you know, when talking about like retro difficulty, people tend to think like, oh, that just means getting punished immediately and then memorizing the game. But in here, like with Pizza Tower, I should say, it's less punishing you, and it's more like, if you want to get those P ranks so that you can 101% the game, then yeah, you will need to memorize some stuff, but you can still enjoy the game and beat it without that issue. But going for those P ranks, because I was that maniac that platinumed the game and then got all the 101%. Like getting good at those levels brought me back to like being a kid and enjoying Sonic 3. I'm specifying Sonic 3 because that's really the only 2D Sonic game of that like first trilogy that made me go, oh, Sonic's cool.
Hey man,
Sonic 2 is all right. Sonic 2
is
fine. Like that was the first 2D Sonic I beat. Sonic 1, but I liked Sonic 3.
That's the right.
I want to ask you something for my benefit and maybe for the audience's benefit, because you know, like the people like Pizza Tower are real loud about it, but you know, not everyone knows what Pizza Tower is. You mentioned like the difficulty spikes, because if I know anything about the Wario games, it's kind of paying homage to, and I don't. You can't die, right? Like,
yes,
what is the?
It's very much like that.
What is the barrier?
If you are just playing the game to beat it, and you're not trying to go for P ranks and stuff like that, it'll be pretty easy. It's the exact same sort of thing where you don't have a life bar, and then like if you get hit 10 times in a level, you get a little pop-up that says like, you hurt Peppino 10 times, and it's like supposed to guilt trip you, but that's it. There's a little TV in the corner of the game that just like shows your main character's like emotions. This is not an indie game that's a metaphor about depression.
I was about to say, that sounds
maybe
like
it
that,
is.
but I know
maybe
it's
it is.
not.
No, it's more of like it's a lot closer to like the Doom face at the bottom that's like looking around and then reacts to like getting shot. It's that, but with a lot more personality, because like you get a power up and it changes to something really silly. Like you get the chicken power up, and now it's just a chicken, but your main character's in the background like, bro, let me have my turn. It's like that. It's a bunch of cute shit. The art style is awesome. Genuinely, it feels
It's a Saturday morning
it reminds
cartoon.
me.
It's really cool.
It reminds me a lot of like that Hanna-Barbera shit. Courage the Cowardly Dog, which I don't know if that's a Hanna-Barbera. You get the idea.
Not at all.
that Hanna-Barbera Coward the dog. Fuck.
Those are not the same.
Coward
It's Tom and Jerry.
Two stupid
Tom
dogs.
and Jerry.
No. I know what I said.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I won't bother too much with talking about the art style. But
It's really good.
Okay.
I had a point with all that rambling.
Difficulty,
Difficulty,
right? Challenging.
Right. So
is it more about like getting into a flow state than
yes,
being more
absolutely.
about the challenge?
So, in order to get the P ranks, this is probably the last time I'll mention it, just to not repeat myself too much. You have a combo meter that slowly drains. It's not even really a meter. It's closer to a timer that every time you hit something, it goes back up. So you have this small window of time to take out an enemy or collect a pickup or anything like that to maintain that combo. And that's where the risk comes from, because in order to get a P rank, you need to have that combo meter there for the whole level. You can't have it run out.
Sounds like
which
a
is
meter
a
from
lot harder
Spark
than it
Dude.
sounds.
Electric Jester 2.
Did they do that?
There's maybe something very similar. There's no TV showing you Fark's emotional state throughout, unfortunately. As much as I love that, since he's a robot.
Well, so Pizza Tower is interesting to me because we had mentioned earlier like these games that sort of take that have just become carbon copies of what they're emulating, and Pizza Tower almost seems like the reverse of a game that goes, oh, it's this, but and
it really is.
This is coming from someone whose Wario Land experience is limited to Wario Land 4 and like a couple levels of Shake It, which is like it seems like Pizza Tower has said, okay, we're gonna take everything that works in Wario Land. We're gonna take like the speed of it, like trying to do it fast, but we're not gonna take like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like Wario Land 4 has those really the pinball levels in the one world that just it kind of like grinds the game. I love pinball in games. I like pinball mini games.
I mean, you're probably right. I have not played enough Wario Land 4 to say.
Oh yeah, it seems like with Pizza Tower that like we're gonna take everything that we like about this that works, that feels good, and we're not gonna throw in any of like the extra stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the game is very, like, unlike Ultrakill, where it's kind of just a hodgepodge, Pizza Tower definitely is a Wario Land 4 inspired game. I mean, the, like, pre-release early access builds of the game actually used, like, Wario Land sound fonts, and then they got in trouble for that.
Oh, I see.
So, it's very deliberate, or it's very explicit about where its inspirations came from. But I don't know what hellish level of like focus testing they did for that game, because everything works. There's not like a single dull moment in that game. Like, people will argue about like what's the worst level in the game, and no one can really agree, because there's so much to do. But at the same time, like, there's also so much that hit the cutting room floor. Like, if we're talking about like power-ups and enemies, like they probably only use like half of what they ended up making, but in a good way. Like they knew what worked.
Yeah, there's a restraint there.
Yeah, so restraint, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. This is something I would Google, but can't because I'm running the ship. There's a similar thing that's homaging Wario Land called ANTONBLAST. Is that out?
Yes.
It's
not out yet. No.
I thought so.
Okay. Well, we'll shout out ANTONBLAST for existing.
Shout out to ANTONBLAST.
Now,
I will say, from Pizza Tower's standpoint, I think the fact that its art style is super simple also plays to its benefit a lot, because you have to kind of notice a lot of the things that are happening to keep that P rank chain going.
Yeah.
And that is having this art style being super simple and being able to clearly identify what is a pickup and what is an enemy is like key to making that ship like as good.
It feels deceptively simple, right? Like it's like you can tell that like behind the scenes there's a lot of thought put into how everything is working.
Yeah.
Obviously the animation frame by frame looks gorgeous.
Yeah, because like it's very flat colors. It's not very poppy, but like the in between frames of everything is so buttery smooth that you know they drew like 15 sprites to make one thing take a step.
And so this does touch on the topic that that you brought up, Justin, which I had noticed going into this, I know I had pitched this idea as like, oh, let's talk about indie successors. But when I went in and actually like looked at the list of games that I've played that count as indie successors to games, I noticed that a lot of them were for games that I had never actually played the original of. I know that you had mentioned suggesting that I talk about Hollow Knight, but I wasn't really going to do that as much as I love that game, because I don't have a familiarity with like the original Metroid games or Castlevania in that way. My entrance into like the Metroidvania genre was, I would say, Guacamelee. If we're talking about that kind
That's a
of
good one.
Yeah, well, and that is very much. I mean, they take the Chozos. They literally just rip the Chozos.
The Chozos are literally in the game.
Yeah,
They're called chorizo.
That might be my first also, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, was Guacamelee. Yeah.
But what's the one thing I will say about Hollow Knight, because it does actually, I think, touch on that kind of topic, is when I played that, I realized that every other Metroidvania game was not a Metroidvania. Like, not in the way that Hollow Knight brings to the table, which is everyone's adventure through that game is going to be their own. And it still does, it has all the gates, it has all the hallmarks, has all the trappings, but you are not in the way that you are in a lot of Metroid games or even ones inspired like it, like Guacamelee. You're not funneled into like a specific progression. And I know, you have like sequence breaks and stuff in Metroid or whatever, but like there is an intended path that doesn't exist in Hollow Knight. There is no intended path beyond the first like 2 areas.
I've tried to explain that to people. Like when I first played Hollow Knight, like I went in thinking like this is going to be a Metroidvania, which I think that it still is. But my perception of what a Metroidvania was made me enjoy it less, just because I went in with the wrong idea.
That's crazy.
No, like I legitimately did not care for it when I first played it, because it wasn't like, I had my expectations in a weird spot. I do think that I would like it now, or genuinely, I think I'd love Hollow Knight. But I was telling people that, like, the way that I phrased it was like, this feels just more like a 2D open world game and not a Metroidvania. And a lot of the response that I got to that was, what's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which made me reevaluate, like, all right, well, what makes a Metroidvania this? And I've been using that for my analytical content, but it's still an interesting discussion from my perspective of like people, like, from all that there are people that just see that big Metroidvania map and think that's an open world, right? Like that's basically just a 2D open world. When I don't see it that way personally until like maybe you get to the end of the game.
Yeah, once you have
with
all the keys.
Yeah, like by the end of the game, it really is an open world. But, you have to earn that in some way. And I like none of this is a slight at Hollow Knight, for the record. I really appreciate what it pulls off.
Yeah, and that's why I say that it like, in a way, it ruined every other Metroidvania for me, at least the 2D ones.
Sure, I understand that.
Because it is just such a perfect execution of what I think a Metroidvania should go for. And then playing, later, a couple years later, playing Metroid Dread afterwards, which is this like very linear game. Like it pretends to be open,
relatively, yeah.
But you're really going in a straight line for most of it. I was like, wow, this is supremely disappointing compared to what I've come to expect from this genre.
So it sounds like you kind of had the opposite feeling that I had in terms of like expectations, because that's what I like about Metroidvanias is how they lock you in to certain regions and force you to either upgrade or find new upgrades to change what parts of the map you can access.
Or to shoot the walls when you're stuck.
Yeah.
And complain about it on
Do a George Gaff? No, that's not his name.
David Jaffe.
George
No,
Jaffe.
George. It's George.
David Jaffe.
Jaff. Wait, never mind.
It's David Jaffe.
I thought it was George Gaff.
George Gaff.
Don't know why.
It's that's his name now.
Yeah.
George Gaff. Well, like, the thing that I like most in games is getting lost and having to keep a mental tally, a mental map of like what I've gone through, what I've where I've gone, where I need to go back to when I get like, I hit a point, I'm like, okay, I probably need to come back here with a power up later because this feels like that's what it is. I love that, and Hollow Knight just facilitates that like no other game, because I mean, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that map system in every game where you enter into the area, you have no idea where you are, even if you have the like little thing that kind of tells you where your guy is, which I never used because I found it much more interesting to actually try to like look at the geography to figure out where I was, and you get the extra badge slot for doing that. And you know, you do eventually get a map for the area, but it's incomplete. It's sketched out. It's not like you still can't really tell a lot of where different areas are. There's places you never be. But if you know, as you go through the area, and once you sit at a checkpoint, it'll fill out all the areas that you've been to. So like you're constantly exploring new area, getting lost. But once you've been somewhere, you know you've been there. You know where you're going to be. And they can use it to great effect in like an area like the Deep Nest, where they really want that kind of fear of the unknown, like getting lost more so than the rest of the game, where they end up giving you the map, like depending on where you came in to the area from, you could end up getting that map at the very end of your exploration. So like you have a full like labyrinth, which is just
if
really
I could jump on you here,
please,
because you're being a Hollow Knight fan, and unfortunately you're not allowed to like Hollow Knight in my presence for too long. But no, I'm just like, oh man, that could be a whole thing in itself. Brody sells us on Hollow Knight. But it seems like the main takeaway I would get from what you're saying is that it was so good that it almost hurt the genre for you a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you
absolutely.
then, maybe like with the Ultrakill thing, right? Like where you go to play another game and you're like, oh, this isn't really Hollow Knight though. You know, this isn't really like Ultrakill.
That happened. I played Ori right after, and I was like, I don't want to play this. This isn't as good.
That's sad because I hear really good things about Ori.
Ori is gorgeous, and it's a game just kind of like Brody, where
It's a game.
I liked other games in the genre, and I went to play Ori, and I was like, I know I would like this game. Why don't I?
Yeah, exactly.
If I could rope Justin in with this premise as we end the show here in a bit, but you know, I want to give Justin a little more chance to speak. I want to see if you feel this way that I do. Because Justin, I know you also like your farming simulator games, much as I do.
You don't like? Wait! You like farming sims? Why have we never talked about this? I love farming sims. We could have been bonding over this.
Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life.
I don't claim for story.
Story of Seasons is the Harvest Moon games, but just under a different name because Natsume took the name Harvest Moon.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a lot. I was like, what, Trav likes them? And then Justin said the word story, and Trav was just like, kill.
Well, wait, I love Minecraft.
I hate Minecraft.
Justin, you grew up with Harvest Moon, right?
Love Harvest Moon.
Much as I did. Did you played Wonderful Life, which just got a remake recently, right?
I'm so pissed that I just bought a bunch of things and I can't get the new Wonderful Life remake.
Same.
I have to save money.
Did you do Friends of Mineral Town also?
I played a little bit of it because it connected to Wonderful Life.
Okay, so you played a little bit of it.
Yeah.
That was the main one I grew up with a very legal copy on my old Pentium PC, and I played it all the time, basically. And I really fell in love with the series, and I noticed that shortly after A Wonderful Life, the Harvest Moon series just, I don't want to say it got too cutesy for me, but it never really grabbed me again, right? And yeah, you're making a motion that it went downhill, and I think a lot of people I've seen.
Oh, that's what he was doing. Okay, I saw that because I have you on this monitor over here.
Right.
I saw that in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, why are the knuckles in Justin's screen? Because like my peripheral vision was just
grab knuckles.
like
over here.
I saw him doing this, and that's like I thought I was just like hallucinating.
Right.
Holy crap.
For audio listeners, Justin's trying to grab a ghost knuckles, and honestly, who can blame him? But I guess to the point, right? Like Harvest Moon, I don't even want to say it became something different necessarily, but it never hooked me back in.
Technically, it literally became something different.
Maybe it literally became something different. Like I kind of followed through Nintendo Power, and at a point I was just like, I think I'm good with Friends of Mineral Town and A Wonderful Life, right?
Which is why one was like Animal Parade on the Wii. That was like the last one before. That was the last one before it split off from being Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons. Like that was the breaking point.
There's some brand tomfoolery we could get into there, but basically like it just kind of felt like it meandered. But in 2016, there was a little game that came out called Stardew Valley, which is weird to think of now as this like huge monolithic like indie gaming entity, because for a while, if you liked Harvest Moon, it felt like you were kind of weird, right? Like so many people would just be like, what's the point? All you do is farm. Like no one, it was hard to get people into the series.
Meanwhile, that was the whole reason I wanted it.
It's the whole reason you wanted it.
I don't care for the story. I just want to farm.
Right. It reminds me a little bit of Animal Crossing, where it's like, it used to be weird if you liked Animal Crossing, but now it's like one of the most like accepted games to play. But to get back to it kind of ruining the genre a bit, Stardew Valley is, I think by the creator's own admission, right, he's like, I really liked Friends of Mineral Town and the old Harvest Moon games, and it felt like I never actually got a sequel to that. So I was like, what if I made my own? And it really shows, because maybe it's a little ugly sometimes, maybe it's a little visually unappealing if we're being honest, but it hits the vibe correctly. And it does actually feel like a sequel to Friends of Mineral Town. So much so that when I played it, I instantly fell in love with it and fell in deep. Justin, can you relate?
It has. So the thing that I greatly appreciate Stardew Valley for is the fact that you can just farm, but there's so much other things to do in that game that makes you really feel connected to the network of people in the town. And it really makes you incentivized to go out and actually talk to everybody, which is something I rarely ever did in a Harvest Moon game. Because I was always just so focused on getting the farm and then just getting that all set up. And it grabbed me in a way that I never really expected a farming sim that was like Harvest Moon to really grab. To the point where when I went back and played A Wonderful Life Special Edition on the PS4, because that came out, it was like a downloadable game.
Yeah.
I was like, man, why are the animations so slow? Why is it so long to water
really
plants? Like, why is it so long to talk to people? Why is it like a 5-minute cutscene to just give someone a flower? Like, why is it this? Why is it that?
I always appreciate the vibe of it, though.
It's phenomenal.
Like, I that's the only Harvest Moon game that I've touched, the only Natsume game I've touched besides Rough Trigger, the Vanacore Conspiracy.
Oh my god.
What?
The Vanacore Conspiracy.
What even is that?
I did that just
That's
to get the
the
reaction.
successor to Ratchet and Clank.
You know what? That is a good point. Actually, it is a indie
Brody.
successor to Ratchet.
No, just continue what you were saying about Harvest Moon.
Yeah,
you can't do this.
No, but what I've realized with farming sims is like I keep looking at Stardew Valley. I've looked at it for years, and I want to play it. I want to go in and enjoy it, but every time I see that like tile-based, tile by tile like farming, I'm like, I realize that I didn't do farming in A Wonderful Life. Like I did like the bare minimum amount. I think my farm was like dead by like year 1 or 2 because I was a child, right? And I was just like, oh, I want to go into town and like, talk to people. I love that game, but not for the farming.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I couldn't recommend Stardew because while it does offer other things to do, like even like a dungeon to go into, it's a nice side thing. It's not like you should play the game for this. It's like if you're already in here, you may as well do it because it's kind of fun, but it's not like sell the game worthy. But go ahead.
I think the most I ever engaged with farming in a game like that was probably actually Farmville on Facebook. When Facebook
I was actually going to say Farmville.
I was going to make fun of that earlier.
Does Farmville count for this?
No, I was going to say that Farmville is part of the reason why I think Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley got as big as they did. Because it went from being a weird like farming thing to it now has a mass appeal because everybody's on Facebook.
Yeah.
And now that everybody knows they like farming sims, that's what grabs more people to try something like an Animal Crossing or try something like a Stardew Valley.
No, I think that you're right on the money with that, honestly.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that, and I might hate that you might be onto something with that. Actually,
I really think it's the case.
That takes some research. I think I need to look into that now. I don't like what you said, but I think you needed to say it. Yeah, no, I guess to attempt to get that back on the rails from Farmville. I don't know, Stardew Valley. It's really good. It's so good that
it's so good.
How good is it?
Well, let me tell you, it's this good. I went back to play new Story of Seasons entries because the series brand tomfoolery. Harvest Moon is now Story of Seasons. There's a Harvest Moon. Don't look at it. But I was just playing it and I was like, man, I wish this was like Stardew. I wish this incorporated quality of life features from Stardew. Again, the dungeon, not sell the game worthy, but it's fun to have like an extra side thing to do that feeds back into the main game, kind of like the Chao Gardens, right? Like it's an extra little thing that's different, but there's a loop there that kind of feeds into each other while you're doing it. There's a lot of attention paid to the townspeople. Stardew Valley still has an issue that I've always had with those games where everyone has like 2 sentences of dialogue per like friendship level, basically. And it's not enough because you have to talk to people every single day to be better friends with them. So you just get these vapid, inane lines of dialogue.
Just start mashing A through a couple of them, man.
Yeah. And it sucks because like in Stardew Valley especially lays down a lot of like really subtle plot threads that are interesting. Like infidelity, someone's kid, someone's like father being like the outcast wizard, and like how that's affecting the marriage of like her mom and her not like biological father, apparently. Like there's all these
Are you a fan of
things.
soap operas?
Yes, actually. How'd you know? But it's a lot of stuff like that where I'm like, man, I wish this had more dialogue. But even so, when I go back to play other games, I'm like, the characters are just more interesting, right? There's not as much to latch onto there. But Stardew Valley is giving you more in that area, especially as I watch the Story of Seasons games just kind of remake the ones I liked as a kid, you know?
And not
I'm
make
like,
a new one.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I really like those games. So it's cool that they're here with better gameplay features, right? But I kind of just want to see you know, Stardew Valley kind of leapfrogged Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons. I kind of want to see them be like, all right, bet, and one up Stardew Valley. But so far, 7 years later, still waiting.
Still waiting.
Yeah.
Still waiting. I'm speaking on farming sims. There are 2 that I want to try and get into, and one of them is Rune Factory, and the other one is Fantasy Life on the 3DS, the one that's made by Level 5. Both
Fantasy
of them
Life is the ultimate checklist game.
Yeah, both of them look really
like,
cool though.
Yeah, like I'm going to turn my brain off and just
you've sold me.
go up. Yeah, no, Fantasy Life is really good. If for that reason, I would recommend it. Rune Factory is one I really want to try, but just never make the time for.
It's on Game Pass now, so if you want to give it a shot.
It sounds like it addresses a lot of the things I want from these games, maybe. So might have to check back in on that later. But boys, I think that's a podcast. I think we did it.
I do think the conversation about
Brody
indie
disagrees.
Well, I think the conversation about indie spiritual successors would not be complete without mentioning ukulele, because that is like
all right,
that
everybody.
was
Thanks so much.
Well, okay.
No, I'm gonna let it. I'm going to go back to this because I know you have a point, but that was a jump scare.
Yeah, no. Well, man, it's
Jump scare.
I guess I should say that I backed that one since Chris has established this now.
Poor thing.
Yeah, I backed that one. Well, the thing is, I don't think ukulele is a bad game. I just think it's like,
why not?
Why don't you not like it, Brody?
It's very much an indie game, which is also maybe something to talk about with the topic, because a lot of these indie developers that are making these games are not working with the same resources that these games were originally made with. Like Platonic did not have the money or the power or the backing that Rare had when they made Banjo-Kazooie, which makes it all the more impressive when one of these games does live up to or outshine what it is emulating. To that point, while ukulele might be a bit of a dour example overall, the sequel, or if you want to call it a sequel, Ukulele and the Impossible Lair, which is instead emulating Donkey Kong Country, is phenomenal. Better than any Donkey Kong Country game that I've played, which is, it's admittedly not the original, it's more of Tropical Freeze era. But that game is stellar. It is, the music is fantastic. The controls just feel good. All of the level gimmick of like going back in, but it's changed up because you're like doing puzzles in this like Zelda-esque top-down overworld. There's no part of that game that is unsatisfying, and it is a testament to once they had established themselves and had that like those resources and that backing to do that, seeing them able to live up to what they used to be able to do is it's nice to see after the first game.
And to back you up anecdotally, because I'm not a Donkey Kong Country guy so far, but
Boo.
I heard even from people who like those original games a lot that they prefer Impossible Lair even. So Even for the original trilogy enjoyers, Impossible Lair seems to be quite a game. And that it's nice to see that, because it's kind of like a good feel-good underdog story, maybe in a way, right? Like, you have a lot of people from back then, but like you said, they have a lot less to work with. So it's good to see them come out and make that better game that everyone just kind of went like, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, this is the one. We
I liked your Obama impression just now.
Thank you very much. We promised we'd get back to it. I saw it mentioned in our live chat here as we stream this live. I think to close this out, I know you have an unexpected opinion, maybe if people aren't familiar, but Trav, Mighty Number 9. Let's just talk about it. Get out of the way.
All right, cool. What do you want me to say?
Ending on
Because
the
I
worst
will
foot.
suck this game's cock until I die. I genuinely
have to
love
say
Mighty
that.
Number 9.
I want you to die on this podcast so we can end it with your death.
Well, that's
Okay.
this is great.
I
This is a good
thought I
positive
was going to
note.
get us canceled by me sucking cock, but that works too.
That's fine. You do that on the regs.
What?
You do that. It's fine.
I do that to eggs? Is that what you said?
So
On
you
the
do that
regs, but
on the
hey,
regs.
Oh, okay.
Suck some fucking
Yeah, I'm
eggs, boy.
sucking egg cock. Let's go. Well, that has a meaning depending on what community you're in.
Eggman?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Chris, aren't you happy?
Oh,
I should have just closed the show. Why did I give Mighty
So
Number 9
anyways,
space?
welcome to the Mighty Number 9 conversation, because where my standards are, Mega Man, not always good. My favorite
dear.
series do be good, but Mega Man, not always. Mighty Number 9, better than bad ones. You go fast, run through enemy, man goes sprinter, and then you go faster. Wow.
Wow. I'm going faster. Wow.
Holy guacamole.
I like looking at the webcam and seeing Justin's face just bright fucking red. That was awesome.
We're having a time here on Crubcast. All right. So,
No, I don't get it. I like Mighty Number 9. I think it's fine. I platinumed it. It was really good.
You got the platinum Mighty Number 9 trophy.
Yeah. I did the thing where you play every level in order without choosing them. Every level in order, you can only take one hit. And then it's game over, start from the very beginning. I did that.
As someone who got all the achievements in Final Fantasy 13, I can relate to forcing yourself through such.
Oh, wait, no,
endeavors.
that was just don't die. I think I could take a hit.
I was
anyways.
like, without a hit, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, that was a different mode. There was no achievement for it.
Chris,
though.
I'm going to do you a favor.
No.
No,
Okay, I'll hear you out.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to the Crubcast, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Well, I did have a lot of other games that did not make the cut in this podcast. It might be that they come up in the post show, which you can only see if you watch live.
That's true. You'll get to hear us talk about those. And instead, as we close out, I want to give a shout out to the ones that were going to exist but didn't. So to close this out, Trav, do you remember Red Ash? Red Ash and the animated adventures kickstarted, and the playable prototype of Red Ash, where you could kick a can down a corner alley. The exciting follow-up to Mega Man Legends that fans could not get. Sometimes these don't work out. And sometimes these episodes don't work out. Thank you for listening to the Crubcast. It's been a pleasure to be your host.
Look at my Scott the Woz profile picture impression.
Trav cartoonishly approached from right angle. As I was saying, sometimes these episodes are a wreck, but that's what you get here on the Crubcast. I'm Chris. It's been a pleasure to be your host. You can find me on the internet as Chris Meekiness Fan. I want to get a plug from everyone else here. Brody, do you have a presence online you want to alert people to, or are you fine with this being it?
Twitch.tv/rockrocks eventually, I think is what I always say.
You'll get there? Okay. JTart9. Justin, keeping in mind that this is going up a week after we're recording it, do you have anything you want to plug, or Trav?
My light fell over.
Stop, Trav.
That happened right before we started streaming, too.
My name is JTart9.
It's
You
true.
can find me on Twitter at JTart9 before Twitter explodes, and you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JTart.
And Trav, where can we find you?
You could find me at youtube.com/@thattravguy. You could also find me on Twitter at the other Trav guy, because that Trav guy was taken.
Right.
And I will also be on I don't remember where I am.
He's ascending.
To help Trav out, he uploaded a Metal Gear video today.
Right, yeah. I did
today of recording. So go give that a late algorithm boost and give that some watch time when you're hearing this, because it's always appreciated.
Yes, I did a video on all of the classic two-dimensional Metal Gear games that will be coming out in October. The review, however, is up now. Watch it, please.
All right, well, there you go. And that's basically it. If you're listening on audio, again, leave us a review, please. We're going to ask you this every week. Even when we get enough, we're going to keep asking. And if you're on YouTube, give it a like and tell us about your favorite indie spiritual successors. Which one did we miss? Bloodstained? Probably that one. All right, we don't have an outro. Bye, everybody.